You've made over $5 million.
I started getting depressed. It felt like my soul was being sucked out of my body.
So you felt like your back was against the wall.
I felt like my only choice at having a happy life was to follow this path of being a creator.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Creative Light. I'm Stephen Guetti. Let's dive right into this. So today's guest, he has so many accolades, I'm not even really sure where to start. His YouTube channel has over 140,000 subscribers with nearly 10 million views. He's made well over $5 million across multiple businesses that he's created from scratch. He's one of the most well-rounded creators that I know personally. Please welcome Travis Marziani. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So for people that don't know, I know you've talked about it a lot, but I'd love for you to just briefly just talk a little bit about what led you into entrepreneurship. Where were you at before you became an entrepreneur, and what got you into that?
So in a lot of ways, I think I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. But for me, I also was someone that, people said, hey, the way to have a good life is to get good grades so you can get into a good college, so you can get a good job. And I'm like, okay, you guys seem really smart, all the adults in my life, so I'm going to listen to that. And the first year, I'll be honest, in my first year of my corporate job, I actually loved it. It was a lot of fun because I was traveling the world. I was, I was getting everything paid for. I was making really good money. Right. But then the second year of my corporate job, I realized, wait, this is it for the next 45 years. And that if I work my butt off, at the end of the year, I get a 5% raise. And if I barely do anything, they give me a 3% raise just for occupying a seat. Yeah. And for me, I've been someone my entire life that I like to create. I like to do cool things, but there was zero incentive to do, technically there was a 2% raise I would get at the end of the year if I really worked my butt off. And so for me personally, what started happening was I started getting depressed. And I've never been someone that's been depressed in my life. I always thought depression was sadness. Oh, that person's sad. No, it's and maybe a lot of your audience is more familiar with it, especially now. I think it's talked about a lot more, but it felt like my soul was being sucked out of my body every single day I was going to my job. I felt like a drone, and it literally was like there was plastic saran wrap between me and reality and just numbness, and it was terrible. And one day, after I was having enough of it, I found this book called The 4-Hour Workweek, which I'm sure you and I have talked about. And it had this idea that if you could create a business online and systematize it and automate it, you could make money on pretty much autopilot while being able to spend your life doing the things you love doing. And I was sold. And so I ended up quitting my job cold turkey and spent the last 8 years or so being a full-time e-commerce entrepreneur. And I will say, I'm not saying it was easy. The first 5 years were a lot of struggle. And around year 5, I ended up creating a product, which you know about, called Performance Nut Butter. It was my passion product. And I'm sure we'll talk about this later. It was something that I really believed in, something that I was excited about, something that did not exist in the world. And I created it. And again, not to say it was easy, but I launched it. And within 2 months of launching this product on Amazon, I was making over $10,000 profit per month, which is over $100,000 profit per year. Relatively passive income. Sure, there was, I had to call to make sure my manufacturer would manufacture my product and ship it into the Amazon warehouse. But other than that, it was relatively passive. And that freed up my time, freed up my energy to start being able to do a lot of things. One of which is how you found me, was I started creating a YouTube channel showing other people how to do this. And that's something I'm really passionate about. So that's the long and short of it.
That's such a relatable thing. I often wonder, how many people are in that mindset that you were at when you were at your corporate job, where you said it's almost like, you feel like a robot, like a drone, there's not much life or much of a spark to what you're doing. So you touched on it briefly, but just kind of take me back a little bit more to what your mindset was at that time. Because there's going to be a lot of people that watch this that are possibly in that mindset that haven't made that leap. So where was your head at that time?
The only reason I was doing my corporate job was because the money. It wasn't a spark of passion for me. It was easy money. And honestly, it was a little bit greed. And it wasn't my purpose in life. And I kind of have this belief that, look, whatever spiritual thing anyone wants to believe in, I kind of believe that we all kind of have paths that we're kind of supposed to go on. And if you stray too far from the path, the universe kind of taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, go back that way. And if you keep straying, it kind of starts pushing you and says, yo, you're supposed to be over here. And then eventually it slaps you in the face. And I think it slapped me in the face with just major depression, and I honestly had no choice. Like, look, it wasn't like one day I'm like, yeah, I'm super excited, I'm gonna quit my corporate job. It was like I felt like my only choice at having a happy life was to follow this path of being a creator and creating something really amazing in the world. I don't know if I really answered your question. I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, definitely. So, do you think that's just the entrepreneurial mindset, or do you think that applies to everybody in life if they're not following their passion, if they're not going for what, they truly love?
I think it does apply to everyone, but not everybody listens to that. There's this idea of, and you've probably heard me talk about this as well, the idea of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And a lot of your listeners probably know about this because it's very popular in the creative space. And I do think that, so the first stage in the hero's journey is the call to adventure. But what always happens next is the refusal of the call. The hero, and we're all the hero. Like, I'm not trying to put myself on any pedestal. We're all the hero of our own life. The hero refuses the call. And then what happens next is usually a meeting with the mentor or supernatural aid, something outside of their control. If they're meant to go on this path, pushes them into it. And I do think that for everybody, I think everybody has paths in life. And you know what, for some people, maybe their path is to be a janitor, and that's okay. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. But I think if you're listening to this podcast right now, or if you're someone on YouTube doing a bunch of research, maybe you're not that person, and maybe it's not okay to settle. And I think that this is where wisdom over time comes into play, of realizing, being able to listen to yourself and say, is this my path? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I think for a lot of people right now, they're realizing that they're meant for something better. And better is their own interpretation of better, not society's.
How much do you think the pandemic had a play in that? Like you said, I think there's a lot of people right now that are realizing, like, whoa, you almost come out of this like career coma. And I've had those moments where it's like you're in the zone, and then like you have this minute to sort of reflect, and then you look around and you're like, is this really making me happy? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Do you think the pandemic played a huge role in that?
100%. Yeah, I do. I think, again, it's kind of that supernatural aid. I think this was a big supernatural aid for a lot of people, and it's that slap in the face. The thing is, people don't realize, and this took me a long time to realize as well, is you don't make changes to your life overnight. It's very, very rare. Every once in a while, someone does it, but if you really dig in deeper, there's a reason that they make a major life change. It takes something almost outside of your control to really, and I thought for a long time, I was so brave, I just quit my corporate job. And then I started remembering my story, and I'm like, no, it wasn't out of bravery. It was like, it was my last hope at life in a lot of ways, Like,
so you felt like your back was against the wall.
I did. And, and I don't want to take anything away from my past self. Like, it still was somewhat courageous to be able to leave this. It's always, in the hero's journey, it's always scary to leave the comfort of the known world and enter what's in the hero's journey called the special world, because it's unknown territory. It's like, I know, and I knew at my corporate job, I could do this for the rest of my life. I would be safe. I would never have any issues. I wasn't worried about getting laid off, because I knew that if I followed this path, I'd be safe. But it wasn't my path. It wasn't the journey that I think I needed to go on. And so I do think the pandemic is kind of a slap in the face for a lot of people, of like, hey, it's a mirror. It's a mirror to say, is this really what you want?
Yeah. So for our entrepreneurs out there that are listening, that might have that similar mindset where they want more, they want something for themselves. Maybe they don't necessarily feel like they're suffocating like you described you were feeling, but they don't feel like they're fulfilled. What would you say to people like that?
Start off small. I think, so I was a very black and white, I'm going to quit my job, burn all my ships, and jump out on this adventure. I think for those kind of people, it's like, do a little something on the side. Maybe spend a few hours a day trying and dabbling in a few different things. See what you like. And this was another reason that the pandemic should be a big wake-up call, is your job that you thought was so secure, a lot of people realized it's not.
Exactly.
A server at a restaurant. Oh yeah, we're going to need those forever, right? Maybe not. And I think the bigger thing is, and I don't think a lot of people are realizing this, but with artificial intelligence coming online, a lot of jobs, Uber drivers, why do we need those? We can have self-driving cars. Even a lot of servers at restaurants, I don't know, like, do I want someone serving me if I could have a robot doing it? And it doesn't have to be like a legit robot. It could be like McDonald's. Think about that. The people at the McDonald's drive-thru, voice recognition is pretty freaking good now. Why do I need someone that's going to mess up my order anyways, take my order? Or could I just use my phone and type it in and get it right every time? So I think this should be a wake-up call to everybody. You better learn some skills. You better learn to be able to better learn how to make money on your own.
For people that don't know, you have a course that you teach entrepreneurs e-commerce. What is the website for that exactly?
Passionproductformula.com.
Yeah. So if you haven't looked at that, definitely check it out. But what I want to get to on that is you've worked with hundreds, I don't even, maybe thousands of entrepreneurs at this point. Is there anything that you've seen in the entrepreneurs that have succeeded and that have launched a product, like some kind of personality trait or quality that you've seen in the winners versus the ones you've seen that haven't? And I'm really curious to hear this because you've worked with so many people at this point. Is there any common trend?
Here's the real truth. The people that succeed, if you want to be an entrepreneur for the next 10 years, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to succeed. If you're hoping to succeed in the next year or two, maybe. And I'll talk about some trends that I see in people that succeed in the short term. But I don't really care about that. It's kind of like, in some ways it's luck. It's like, there's an idea in chess. If you, there's a 4-move sequence where you can get checkmate on someone. It's called a fool's mate. And that doesn't mean you're a good chess player. That means you've memorized these 4 moves and you got lucky because the other person's didn't see that coming and is inexperienced. The way to get really good at chess is to spend the next 10 years learning chess and dissecting everything. And if I told you for the next 10 years, do it, I can give you a better formula. Don't get me wrong. Like we can structure how to learn chess, but it's that idea of being curious and continuing and making mistakes, learning from the mistakes and pivoting. So for me, for instance, my first company was a dance clothing company. It made money. Like it didn't fail. Like sometimes I build it up as this big failure, but I wasn't able to hit my goal of $100,000 per year passive income. I was making probably $30,000, $40,000, enough to pay the bills. But what I did is I learned from the mistakes of that business and I started a completely new business that didn't have all those same mistakes and I was able to achieve goals. And I'm willing to bet the next business I launch will be even better. So the number one trait I think in all successful entrepreneurs is just being able to learn from your mistakes. Actually, that's learn from your mistakes and maybe even just as importantly, if not more importantly, is learn from other people's mistakes. Be curious. Look at, hey, why are you doing this? And I'll put a third one in that should be obvious, but just in case it's not, it's like, it's doing the work. It's taking those little baby steps every single day. I think a big mistake a lot of people make is they get overwhelmed, and that it kind of ties into analysis paralysis because they're like, oh, I've got all these things to do. It's like, just focus on the next little step. Again, the analogy is like, if you're going from LA to New York, you don't need to know every single direction you're driving there. You just need to know what's the next thing. What's the next exit I get on? What's the next freeway I get to?
So if you're watching this and you're considering entrepreneurship or you're an entrepreneur and you can relate to anything Travis just said, go ahead and comment down below. We're going to read and respond to these comments. So I want to move forward. I want to talk about how in literature, there's often 12 major character archetypes. You know, there's the hero, like you talked about, there's the outlaw, the explorer, and then there's also the magician. So me and you have kind of talked about this in private before. You mentioned that you kind of feel like you're at that magician stage right now. Explain that a little bit more, going a little bit more in depth on that, because someone might hear that and say, what is this guy talking about? He's a magician, you know?
No, I know, absolutely. It's funny. I don't know how to say this without laughing because it seems so crazy. So there's all these different archetypes. We talked about the hero. The hero, a lot of times, they're going out to slay the dragon and conquer some kind of thing. The hero wants to go out and slay the dragon to get the gold, to get the woman, to get all that kind of stuff. The warrior, on the other hand, goes out to kill the dragon because it's what's best for the community. And a lot of times, after you've slayed your own personal dragon, you become the warrior and you continue to slay dragons, but it's not for your own glory, it's for the greater good of the community. But another one is the magician. And the magician archetype isn't like creating, it's not like legit magic. It's not like creating things out of thin air. It's the idea of learning a skill. And so if you think about magicians, they're illusionists, right? They've learned these skills and it's kind of sacred knowledge that's passed down from one magician to the younger magician. And they're able to do things that are like, seem impossible. And what I've been able to do 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, let's say 8 years ago, back when I had a corporate job, seems impossible. It feels like right now I'm creating money out of thin air. It's insane because let's talk about Amazon for a second. I put a product up on this website. You know, I did all this marketing and money just kind of appears in my bank account. And it's not like the old days where you have to go knock on, door-to-door sales and like you're earning every single dollar. It's like it's almost like I've learned these, let's call them spells in a way. And one spell is the words of my Amazon title, the images that I create. Like I've learned how to influence people to want to buy it's not like I'm tricking them. It's like I've learned how to influence people to want to buy my product. I've learned how to create products that people want to buy. And I've learned all these different skills that when put together creates money out of seemingly thin air. Now, obviously, just like a magician, there's real reasons behind it. For me, there's real reasons behind it. It's like all these different skill sets that I've put together. But every once in a while, I take a step back and it's like, I can send out an email and make $10,000. And it's like, that's crazy. And so why? It's because of the words I put in the email. A lot in the same way that you think of a magician has words that he says for a spell that creates in fantasy, stories, creates some kind of crazy action. Like if I told you I could type out these words and it creates $10,000, you're like, that's freaking magic. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like what I've learned is this almost magic that is practical and is completely logical and all that kind of stuff. And part of that stage too is passing that down to other people, because it's once you've developed this skill, again, think of the archetype of the old magician or the old sorcerer that's teaching the young apprentice. And I think I'm at this stage where I've learned a little bit of this crazy set of skills that I can pass down to other people.
Yeah, one thing I like about you too is you're pretty transparent with everything. Like, you're very open, like, yeah, I'm going to make a good amount of money on my course, but I should, because people are going to learn how to make a ton of money if they check it out. So I think that's one thing that separates you is from a lot of, quote unquote gurus these days is your transparency. So I want to talk a little bit about, you've made over $5 million throughout your different businesses that you've created.
Revenue, not profit, to be fair.
Revenue, not profit.
Okay.
Yeah. There's the transparency. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. But still, that's a ton of money that most people could only dream of. So all BS aside, for the common man, what is actually the best way to make money online today in 2021? Yeah.
So there's a few different, it depends what your goal is. So let's talk, there's a few different things here. So if your goal is to make money in tomorrow, you should do freelancing. Like if tomorrow you want to start making money, go to Upwork, go to Fiverr, start doing freelancing. If your goal is to create a legitimate passive income business, I do think, and again, let me, when I say passive income business, I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today. This doesn't mean once you create this business for the rest of your life, you're going to be making $100,000 a year. Yeah. But, so for instance, with Performance Nut Butter, I created it, I set it up, I did a lot of, hard work's not the right word, I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into it. It was fun for me up front. But then once I launched it, it was relatively passive to maintain.
So the work is front-loaded is what you're saying?
Yes, the work is front-loaded. Now that being said, because I was a little bit more passive, by my third year, my sales started to slip a little bit because competitors started coming in. Now the truth is, I don't want to say if I could do it over. If someone else was in my position, what I would tell them is, hey, maybe put your foot on the gas a little bit more because then it could last for longer. And so really passive income maybe is too strong of a word, but if you want freedom, location independence, and relatively a passive income business, I still think Amazon FBA. YouTube is good if you're in the right niche. Personally, my formula for success for everybody listening, and this is what I've been able to do, so obviously I'm biased, is Amazon FBA and start a YouTube channel talking about it. Because if you have a YouTube channel talking about, or let me actually even broaden that out. Sure. Any way of making money online in a YouTube channel, talking about it and teaching it. And your YouTube channel, and you could do TikTok as well, which I've been experimenting with, at Travis Marziani at TikTok. The YouTube channel, or some kind of like, show people the knowledge of how to do it. Because one big thing, we're in a knowledge economy right now. But people don't really understand what that means. People hear that, yeah, it's a knowledge economy, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? Well, if you have knowledge, you can make freaking a lot of money off your knowledge. And again, as you said, you should. Because your knowledge is what makes you money. My knowledge about internet marketing is what made me money with Performance Nut Butter. Then I turned around and took my knowledge from Performance Nut Butter, Amazon, started a YouTube channel, and have a course and make even more money doing that because I'm able to scale it. I'm able to show so many people. And the only reason I make any money off of YouTube, the only reason I make any money off my course is because I have knowledge in this skill set of Amazon. So I think having a course is another very powerful way to make money. But to do that, you need to have a lot of knowledge, and you need to put a lot of, it takes time to build up a brand, to build up reputation. So I often tell people, why pick one? Why don't you start off by doing some freelancing, making that money you need now, creating your Amazon business, and then creating your YouTube channel kind of on the side, and you can kind of transition. Maybe at first it's 80% you're doing Upwork, doing freelancing, 20% working on your business. But then once your business starts to take off a little bit, maybe 80% is your business and 10%'s freelancing, 10%'s creating this YouTube channel. Do all those. Like, learn how to, I think personally one of the best ways to make money is learn how to make money and then teach other people how to do that, and do it from a place where you actually really understand it and you can actually really help people. It's not like you're trying to take advantage of people. So those three things.
Yeah, that's very practical advice. So anybody that's watching this, go ahead and comment down below if you have any questions about how to actually make money online. We're going to read and we're going to respond to all of these. So I want to move on. You mentioned Amazon FBA. So I want to read off a couple stats on FBA. So there's over 2 million FBA sellers currently on Amazon right now. There's over 250,000 sellers added each quarter. So they're estimating another 1 million every year moving forward. That's a very crowded space. In such a crowded space, how do you stand out?
Most people that are selling on Amazon are doing one of a few different things. The first thing is retail arbitrage, which is basically buying products that are normally $50, buying them at discount at Walmart for $10, flipping them on Amazon. That's a huge percentage of the people selling. The other thing is people do wholesale, or they buy Nike shoes that are normally $100, buy them for $50 at the wholesale price, pretending like they're a brick and mortar store, and flip them on Amazon. And then the third thing that's very common, and all three of these I don't really recommend, though retail arbitrage is interesting if you need some quick cash. The third thing is private label, which and some of your audience may know. It's basically going to Alibaba.com or basically finding some generic junk product, slapping your brand on it, and putting it on Amazon. And this used to work really well. And so I would be willing to bet I'm making this number up, but it's an educated guess, 90 to 95% of the people that are actually starting a business on Amazon, so we're getting into really small numbers, 90 to 95% of them are doing one of those three methods that I don't really recommend. And so those get really crowded, because if you're doing retail arbitrage, you're competing against everybody else that's also going to Walmart and bargain hunting and doing all this stuff. Not to mention that it takes a lot of time and energy to constantly have to go out and hunt for those products. You're competing against all the other wholesalers, because if you're contacting Nike, you're not the only one. A lot of other people are contacting Nike. And then same thing with private label. If it's easy for you to private label some junk product and put it on Amazon, it's easy for so many other people to do it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the answer in my opinion is, how do you compete with these people? Don't compete with them. There's this idea of a blue ocean strategy. You don't want to go and compete where everybody is competing. If everybody in the world is zigging, you want to zag. You want to be like, yo, I see some gold over here. So the way to do that, in my opinion, is figure out what are people searching for on Amazon? What do people want that's not on Amazon?
Okay, so basically to summarize what you're saying is, instead of zigging like everybody is and doing all of these different methods that you mentioned, you're saying go ahead, create a passion product, and that's your way of zagging and standing out.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I'll summarize your summary, or maybe add on to it, I should say, is you want to create something unique, something different, something that's better. I mean, when you watch Shark Tank, they're not just like, this product already existed, but I put my own brand on it. No, they're creating a unique, people have problems. People are not searching for products, they're searching for solutions to their problem, right? And so if you can provide a better solution, or a solution to a problem that no one else has a solution to, you're going to make more money. And that's the real, and you're going to stand out in the space, and there's not going to be competition, because you're going to be the winner. So.
Is that where you would recommend for people to start? Is start looking and noticing for where there's problems, and then just working off of that? Is that where you'd recommend people start?
Yeah. Like I was talking to someone earlier, and they're like, there's no vegan, there's no good tasting vegan Cheetos. And I'm like, that could be a cool product. Like, that's real easy. Like this happens all the time where people have ideas. My dad growing up, he used to make pancakes with protein powder, and it was before anyone was doing, and now people are making millions and millions of dollars off of protein pancakes. And he's like, that was my idea. And I'm like, but you didn't do anything with it. So it's like, find those unique ideas and then turn them into products. And that's why, as you mentioned, it's a passion product, something that you're actually passionate about, that you're excited about. Turn it into a product that you can make money from.
So if you're watching this, go ahead and comment down below if you have any curiosity or you're considering starting Amazon FBA. Also, go ahead and check out Travis's channel. He's got a ton of, at this point, what do you have? Thousands of videos basically where he talks about and breaks down step by step on how to launch on Amazon. So go ahead, comment down below if you're curious. We're going to read and respond to these. So I want to shift gears really quickly, and I want to talk about you as a content creator. So you started off at 0. And now you've got over 147,000 subscribers. So for somebody like me, and for a lot of people that are watching that don't have that, how do you get your first 1,000 subscribers? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways. So one thing to keep in mind is I was a co-host of a podcast. And so my first 200 subscribers, I came over from, I promoted it on a podcast. So really, if you want to get your first 1,000 subscribers, there's a few things I would say. One, try to do collaborations with other influencers, podcasters, whatever. That's a great way to do it. But another thing I would say is look at the people in your space and try to figure out what videos are they making that are getting them lots of views? What content are they producing that's getting them lots of views, likes, comments, all that kind of stuff? Watch that, break it down. Figure out why people like that. Break down the thumbnail. The other thing I will say that I think a lot of beginner creators make is they focus on quantity over quality. And I think that if you really try to produce the best video on Amazon PPC, you do the best video on how to start an online business, the best video on whatever the topic is, you're going to have a lot of success because people are going to share that. People are going to watch that for a long time. For instance, for YouTube, a big part of the algorithm is how long are people actually staying on your videos? How often are they sharing your videos? How often are they liking it? So if you can get a video that people are passing around because it's so freaking good, you're going to have a lot of success. And this is kind of one of those meta skills that I've learned, and it's one of the reasons why I feel like even if all the electricity went out, I could be the best goat herder, is because I think if you really focus on something and you focus on doing it really good, you're going to succeed. And I've been working, my girlfriend has been helping me do social media, and I see that, she does a good job, but it's not like she isn't as picky as I am. Like she'll post a photo and I'm like, that photo's okay, but like, I want the best photos from now on. And same thing with my YouTube videos. I used to post a lot of videos that were mediocre, and I was okay with that because I was focusing on the quantity. And I still made money doing that. But at a certain point, I decided I want to have every single video, I'm going to watch it over and over again until I edit every single little bit and make it just so it's amazing. So that people, when they're watching it, they're like, wow, this is really awesome content. And they're going to want to come back again and again. So I think that, maybe this isn't necessarily to get your first 1,000 subscribers, but to get long-term success, it's like really focusing on what makes for good content on your platform. If you're doing podcasts, listen to other podcasts and see, why do people like this podcast? Break it down, apply those skills and those knowledge to your own podcast. So that's more or less what I would say.
Is there something also to be said, and I'm curious to hear your take on this, is there something also to be said on making content that people want versus making selfish content that just you want to make? Because I feel like I've seen a lot of creators that aren't really like asking or trying to figure out what the people want, and instead it's just like, I want to do this. Is there something to that, or am I wrong on that?
100%, especially when you're first starting out, because when I think once you get big enough, you can do whatever the hell you want. Like Tim Ferriss, he could do a video about Japanese horseback riding archery, which he did, and I'd watch it because I'm like, oh, it's Tim Ferriss doing it. Like, why not?
That's a good example.
But when you're first starting out, you're right. I mean, and we've talked about this, is like you need to do some research and figure out what are people looking for. And so there's this term called ikigai, and I'll summarize it really quick, but you need to find the intersection between what you like to do, what people want, what people are willing to pay for, and like what your life purpose is. And I might be I might have substituted one of those, but basically it's, you don't want to do just what other people want, and you don't want to do just what you want. You need to figure out where's that little intersection. Because the truth is, for my YouTube channel, I really love making Amazon content, but really, if I could make content about anything, would that be what it is? Probably not. And I've kind of, I would do Amazon content as well because I find it very rewarding to help people, but I would also be doing some of the content that I've been kind of, like I did a video about learning to surf, and like that was fun for me. It didn't get a lot of views. And so if I was a new creator, that would be a big mistake. But because I have somewhat of an established following, I was able to release this video that only got 800 views, where my normal video gets like 5,000 views. But it was worth it for me because it was fun for me. And I'm testing. And that's another big thing. Actually, this is one of the biggest things I will say for new content creators. This might be the biggest principle. throw a lot of, well, again, this kind of goes, it kind of sounds like it's the opposite, but throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall, meaning you do need to try a lot of things. Now, try on those things. It's not like I'm saying just throw up a bunch of junk, but it's like test out different things.
Right.
And as you're doing it, really try to do good things. And I will say earlier on, it may be okay to not do everything quite as perfectionist. Maybe. This is debatable. But I think as you start to know what's working, really focus hard. So what I did, and I'm not saying this is what I recommend, but what I did is at first I tried lots of different types of videos, all within the e-commerce niche. And I saw that, people really resonate with these style of videos. So I'm gonna do those kind of videos primarily. And when I do one, I'm gonna really put a lot of time, energy, and effort into those videos.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of the 80-20 principle. But what people don't realize about the 80-20 principle is to find 20 good things, you need to try 100 things. And 80 of them are gonna be bad, 20 of them are gonna be good. And to find one great thing, you need to try 100 things, because of the 20 good things, only 4 are actually going to be great, and only 1 is going to be excellent. So it's like you got to try a lot of things, and this is a lot of advice is almost not counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive, but it's finding that balance between creating that quantity and creating that quality. So.
That's very practical advice, and one of the things that is a double-edged sword with YouTube, it's great and it's not great, is the comment section. So if you're watching this and if you have gotten to your first 1,000 subs or you're working to get there, go ahead and comment down below what's worked, what hasn't worked. We're going to read these and we're going to respond to these. Real quickly, I want to touch on this. So somebody like me, I'm a little bit of, I come from the production world before I got into entrepreneurship and before, I met you. So I can be a little bit of a gearhead at times. I love, cameras, and I love making things look flashy. But I often look at somebody like you that's had tremendous success, and you focused so much on the substance in your videos, because it's amazing. It's like it's you just sitting in a chair talking, and you've gotten 140,000 people to subscribe to you. I mean, you've got production companies spending millions of dollars trying to pull some of the numbers that these podcasts are like you just sitting in a chair talking. They want to get those numbers, and they got to spend millions of dollars, and they don't even hit that sometimes. So just talk a little bit about that, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on just, are we overvaluing, the production value and the flashiness sometimes in these things? Is it really just at the end of the day all about the substance in the videos?
I wouldn't say it's all about, but I think that's a big part. Yeah, I definitely. So one thing that I'll say that I probably do better than a lot of production companies, I could be wrong, is I really focus on the analytics. I really look at, all right, I'll watch my video, and you can see in YouTube, when do people stop watching? It's audience retention. And so I obsess over that. I watch other people's videos, and I haven't been doing it as much in the last few months, but when I was really obsessed on YouTube, I would watch all the competition and watch their videos and break down, when do I stop paying attention? And then I'd also look at the patterns and try to see what kind of videos are people watching, a lot of, and I'd make a lot of those kind of videos. And so I think that everything you're talking about is helpful and important, but that's not the primary thing right now. I think if you have two different people, and one, they're exactly the same substance, and one is flashier, you'll probably watch the flashier one. But it also depends why you're watching it. Because people aren't always watching my content for flashiness. They're watching it for information. Right. They want to know, what mistakes did this guy make? And I don't want to make those mistakes. And so I try to make it look nice, but I'm not an expert at that. So for me to make it look 10% nicer is going to take 10 times as long for me to make that video. So this is where the quality versus quantity comes in. But it's something I'm working on. I'm trying to do better quality stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone needs to find their own balance with that.
Well, I don't know if I would even, I don't even mean, I think your stuff is quality. I just mean you focus, it seems, so much more on the substance, and you've achieved, a substantial amount of success. But do you think it just maybe, from what you're saying, it seems like it varies on, because if some guy's doing a camera review and his footage doesn't look great, that's probably not going to bode well for him. So you're basically saying it kind of varies depending on what you're doing?
Yeah, and here's one of the things I've realized with YouTube and podcasts and most social media. Yeah. You can find someone doing it one way and find someone doing it completely the opposite way, and they both could be having success. And a third person that's doing something completely different. I think that there's not always this is the way to have success on a platform. Because the truth is, if I could make my videos higher production value, I absolutely would. But it was it was too hard for me to do. Like, I don't know how to do that very easily. So I did what I could work with.
This show, podcast, whatever you want to call it, I'm bringing on different creators. It's called Creative Light. The theme is people that create things. And out of all the people that I know, I feel like you're one of the biggest all-around creators. You've created businesses, you've created a course, obviously you create a ton of video content, which you've been successful at. So something that I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on, why is there so many more critics than there are creators?
Because it's easier. It's 100% easier. It's so much easier. And here's the thing. You probably do this. I definitely do this, where I can, in my mind, envision the perfect video, the perfect product, the perfect marketing campaign. But then when I actually go to do it, the real world's a bitch. The real world's a lot tougher. It's like, specifically with videos, because a lot of other things I can kind of do a little bit better, but specifically with videos, because there's a performance element to it. I have this idea of this vision of this perfect product, world, whatever, perfect video. But then when you go to do it, it never lives up to the perfection that you can create in your mind. And so for the critics, it's very easy to imagine what perfection would look like and be able to say, well, you're not perfect because of X, Y, and Z. But it's like, okay, you try to go do that. It's almost impossible. And there's lots of different types of critics. Obviously, people critiquing the quality, somehow the quality of your videos, or like, you made a mistake here, and it's like, I did, like whatever. Right. But there's also critics of people that's like, one big critique I got that's always stuck with me that I think so interesting is one of my videos. Someone was saying, you only make $100,000 a year off Amazon. That's not enough money to teach people how to sell on Amazon. I make $200,000 a year, and I don't even make enough money to teach people how to sell on Amazon. And I'm like, that's insane, because if I'm making first off, in my opinion, if you're making $1 off of Amazon, you have enough knowledge to teach people how to sell on Amazon. Maybe not very well, but you have enough knowledge to teach them how to create their first product and sell it. And so it's easy for people to first off project their insecurities onto other people, which is what I think most people are, for lack of a better word, kind of asleep, in a daze. And they don't realize that when you're critiquing other people, 9 times out of 10, you're really critiquing yourself. You're really critiquing some kind of insecurity. I think it's easy for people to critique because it's hard to create. It's just, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a creator space, so I know a lot of creators, but when you look at the totality of people that there's way more people that are critiquing, and that, everybody's got an opinion, but it's such a small niche group of people that are actually creating. So you have so many projects going on. What actually excites you the most at this point when you wake up? What are you most passionate about right now?
So right now I'm kind of in a recharge mode where I'm not in a growth mode. But the next growth mode for me is going to be the course. Specifically, I want to create the best freaking community in that course that I can. I want to make it so it's something that even if I decided to retire or something happened to me, the community would be so strong and it would be able to grow without me. So that's the thing that really, I really want, when someone joins the course, it's just like they're part of this thing that's bigger than themselves, which I don't think I've been able to do as well as I can. And another part of that is creating content, better content, getting more people in the course. Like every single thing around the course for me is so exciting because it's so rewarding. It's so enjoyable, really. So that's probably my biggest thing right now.
So just as creators, we're building these things that kind of live on longer than us. And I think that's in our subconscious a little bit. So when your career is all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be?
That's a great question. I don't know how much I've thought about this. I mean, so my real legacy, I want to give a decent answer to that. First off, I'm going to start by saying 1,000 years from now, no one's going to know who I am. So it's like, it almost doesn't matter.
It's depressing.
Well, no, I mean, it's also freeing. It's equally depressing as it is freeing, because if you realize 1,000 years from now, no one's going to know who you are, then it's like nothing you do is that big of a deal. Like, go swim in the ocean for a day. Like, go to the beach and chill. Do whatever you feel like doing. So with that, I really think my biggest legacy, there's a few things. One, I do eventually want to have kids. And I think realistically, the biggest thing I'm ever going to do for the world is probably going to be my kids. Because everything I'm doing is learning how to be a better human, a better teacher, which ultimately to me is going to be a better father. So that's really, I think, because a lot of what I'm doing right now is I'm figuring out my own issues. And this is a conversation we can get, maybe a part 2 at some point.
Sure.
But I really think entrepreneurship is the best path I have found to self-development, because it pushes all your buttons, it stresses you, and it shows you your weaknesses, and it helps you to become a better human. And it's exposed me to a lot of things and flaws in my own personality that I realized, wow, I'm really glad this has been exposed, because otherwise I would have passed those on to my kids. Now, as far as my work as a whole, I don't even think I'm close to being, look, I would love, at this moment, I'd love to be known as the passion product guy. I'd love to be known as the guy that helps people turn their passions into businesses. But I'm hoping that my real legacy is probably something even bigger than that. Maybe something I don't even know about. You know, I'm still relatively young, and I think helping people, I also don't know if I mind if not a lot of people know who I am. Like I hope that I can help inspire people that are going to help make a bigger change than I ever could. That's the real thing is, I hope I can help people get some freedom in their life and really live their dream lives. But legacy is a strong word. I'll have to think a little bit more about that.
So your answer makes sense, though, to your answer previously when I asked you what you were most passionate about. It was the course. It was the people. It was working with them. And then, the first thing that came to your mind, you said if you have children, obviously, but you're professionally, your next answer was you want to help people create freedom. And that's essentially what you're doing. So it makes sense.
I'll add in with the course is I'm hoping to expose other people to this self-development tool. Yeah, it's great. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you can get rid of all fear and scarcity and live in abundance, you can start self-actualizing. You can become a better person. And look, I'm not saying money solves all the issues, but when you don't have to be afraid of how you're going to put food on the table, and at the same time you have the freedom to be able to go live your dream life, it leads to a better society. So really, in a lot of ways, I hope my legacy is I was one of the dominoes that helped lead other people to be able to be better people. And those better people helped other people become better people. I think really what we all should be doing is trying to spark, I don't know how to explain it, like an awakening, a conscious awakening. I'm not saying I'm fully consciously awakened or anything like that, but helping the world to become a better place with whatever our skills are. These are my skills. And I think that I can be one domino that hits two dominoes, that hits two dominoes, that hits two, each of those two dominoes hits two. And before you know it, it's like the entire world becomes a better place. Because if I can help someone make $100,000 a year passive income, and they got money on lock, and their real passion is helping impoverished people in Africa. Great. Like
it's awesome.
And that's always, it's a cliche thing to like go help people in Africa, but it's like there's so many ways to help the world become more awakened, more happy and alive. So that's hopefully in some ways what my legacy will be. And I don't care if I'm not super famous for it.
So I'm going to wrap this up, but I end every episode with a quote. And so I don't normally quote such mainstream people, but I heard a quote from Drake that I really felt embodied what a lot of what you stand for. So he was speaking to a bunch of high school students that were graduating and moving on to college. And what he said to them, like I said, really, I felt like it embodied a lot of what you stand for. And he said, sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about your destination. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.